The morning air carried the first real bite of winter as Robert Mitchell stepped out of his downtown office building. At 58, he'd spent 30 years climbing the corporate ladder at Hartwell Industries, the last 5 as CEO. The weight of yesterday's decisions hung heavy on his shoulders. Budget cuts, restructuring. 23 families would wake up this morning without the security they'd counted on. He'd signed every termination letter himself, unable to delegate that responsibility to someone else. It was the right decision for the company's survival, they'd told him. But right decisions, he'd learned, didn't always feel right. Robert pulled his navy overcoat tighter and walked toward his usual coffee shop, seeking the warmth of routine. That's when he saw her. A little girl, no more than 7 years old, stood on the sidewalk in a tan winter coat that looked slightly too big. Her blonde hair caught the weak November sunlight as she bent down beside a cardboard box. Inside, a cream-colored puppy with impossibly soft fur looked up at the world with trusting brown eyes. The handmade sign propped against the box read, "Puppy for sale. Please help." Robert slowed his pace. Something about the scene tugged at him. The child's careful printing, the way she gently stroked the puppy's head while scanning the faces of passing strangers. Most people hurried by, lost in their own Thursday morning routines. He found himself walking toward her. "Good morning," Robert said softly, crouching down to the child's level. His knees protested slightly, reminding him of his age. "That's a beautiful puppy you have there." The little girl looked up at him with solemn blue eyes. For a moment, she seemed hesitant. Then, with the earnestness only a child can muster, she whispered, "Please buy our puppy, mister. We really need to sell her." There was something in her voice, not a sales pitch, not even a plea, really. Just a quiet statement of desperate need that made Robert's heart clench. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Emma," she replied, her small fingers still resting protectively on the puppy's back. "This is Snowflake. She's the best puppy in the whole world. She doesn't make messes or nothing, and she's really, really good." Robert smiled despite himself. "I can see that. She does look like a wonderful puppy." He paused. "Emma, where's your mother? Does she know you're out here?" The child's face fell slightly. "Mommy's at home. She's been crying a lot lately. She doesn't know I'm here. I told her I was going to my friend Sarah's house down the street." A cold feeling settled in Robert's stomach that had nothing to do with the November wind. "Why has your mother been crying?" he asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. Emma looked down at Snowflake, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "She lost her job yesterday. She came home and just sat at the kitchen table for a really long time. She tried to hide it, but I heard her crying in her room last night." The words hit Robert like a physical blow. "She said we might have to move soon," Emma continued, her small voice steady but sad in the way children sound when they're trying to be brave. "And we can't take Snowflake to an apartment. So I thought, if I could sell her, maybe the money would help. Maybe we wouldn't have to move. Maybe Mommy wouldn't be so sad." Robert felt something crack inside his chest. Here was the human face of his corporate decision. Not a line item. Not a percentage. Not a necessary sacrifice for the greater good. A little girl standing in the cold, trying to fix her mother's broken world the only way she knew how. "Emma," he said carefully, "what does your mother do? What kind of work?" "She works with computers," Emma said, brightening slightly at the question. "She's really smart. She's always helping people fix things. She worked at some big company downtown, Hart something. I can never remember the whole name. Hartwell Industries. Of course." Robert closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Emma was watching him with that peculiar intensity children have when they're trying to understand the adult world. "How much are you asking for Snowflake?" he asked. $50, Emma said hopefully. "I saw on the computer that puppies usually cost way more, but I thought $50 would really help." $50. This child thought $50 would solve her mother's unemployment. The innocence of it, the heartbreaking innocence, made Robert's throat tighten. He reached into his wallet, but then stopped. An idea was forming. A wild, impulsive idea that went against every carefully measured decision he usually made. "Emma, I'd like to help you," he said slowly. "But first, I need to ask you something important. What's your mother's name? Her full name?" "Jennifer. Jennifer Morrison." Robert pulled out his phone and quickly searched his assistant's emergency contact list. Jennifer Morrison, Quality Assurance Specialist. 12 years with the company, excellent performance reviews, single mother, one dependent. He'd signed her termination letter yesterday afternoon. "Emma," Robert said, making a decision that felt more right than anything had in months. "I'm not going to buy Snowflake." The little girl's face fell, tears springing to her eyes. "Please, mister. She's a really good dog, I promise." "Let me finish," he said gently. "I'm not going to buy Snowflake because you shouldn't have to sell your puppy. No child should have to fix their parents' problems like this. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to Snowflake." Emma's lip trembled. "But, Mommy—" "I work at the same place your mother did," Robert said quietly. "In fact, I'm in charge of the whole company. And I think a terrible mistake was made. Would you let me talk to your mother?" The girl looked uncertain, but also hopeful in that fragile way children hope when adults promise to make things better. "You'll help my mommy?" she asked. "I'm going to try very hard," Robert promised. 20 minutes later, Robert stood on the small porch of a modest duplex 3 blocks away. Emma stood beside him, one arm around the cardboard box with Snowflake nestled inside. The puppy had fallen asleep during the walk over. The door opened and a woman in her mid-30s appeared. She had the same blonde hair as Emma, pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. She looked exhausted. "Emma! Where have you been? I was so worried!" Jennifer Morrison stopped mid-sentence, her gaze landing on Robert. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by confusion, then something like fear. "Mr. Mitchell?" "Mrs. Morrison," Robert said quietly. "I'm sorry to arrive unannounced. Your daughter and I met downtown this morning. She was trying to sell her puppy." Jennifer's face went white, then red. "Emma, what did you—" She looked at her daughter, then back at Robert, mortification washing over her features. "I'm so sorry. She didn't know who you were. She would never—" "Please," Robert interrupted gently. "May I come in? I'd like to talk with you, if you'll allow it." Jennifer looked like she wanted to refuse, wanted to protect whatever dignity she had left. But Emma was looking up at her mother with such hope that she finally stepped aside. The living room was small but tidy. Children's drawings decorated the refrigerator visible through the kitchen doorway. A worn but clean sofa. Photos of Emma at various ages. A life built on modest means and careful budgeting. A life that yesterday's corporate decision had upended. Emma disappeared into her room with Snowflake, sensing the adults needed to talk. "Mrs. Morrison," Robert began, then stopped. "How did you apologize for this?" "Jennifer, I came here to say I'm sorry, and to tell you that you're getting your job back, effective immediately, with back pay for today." Jennifer stared at him. "I don't understand." "Your termination was a mistake," Robert said firmly. "An error in judgment on my part. You're an excellent employee. 12 years of exemplary service. Your performance reviews are outstanding. You shouldn't have been let go. But the restructuring will be restructured," Robert said. "I'm the CEO. I have the authority to fix my mistakes. Because your 7-year-old daughter stood on a street corner this morning trying to sell the puppy she loves to help you. Because she heard you crying last night and decided she had to fix it. Because in 30 years of business, I've never had to look at the direct consequence of my decisions like I did this morning." He paused. "I've been telling myself that hard choices are part of leadership. that sometimes people get hurt for the greater good. But your daughter reminded me that those people are real. They have families. They have children who love them. And they deserve better than to be sacrificed to a spreadsheet. Tears were rolling down Jennifer's cheeks. I've been so scared, she admitted. I don't have family nearby. It's just Emma and me. I've been trying to figure out how we'd make it. Whether I'd have to pull her out of her school, away from her friends, whether we'd lose our home. You're not going to lose anything, Robert said. You're coming back to work, and I'm going to review every other termination I signed yesterday. If there were mistakes made, and I suspect there were, they'll be corrected. I don't know what to say, Jennifer whispered. Say you'll forgive a stubborn old executive for forgetting what really matters. Robert replied with a gentle smile. Emma appeared in the doorway, Snowflake in her arms. Mommy, are you okay? You're crying again. Jennifer laughed through her tears and held out her arms. Emma ran to her, and mother and daughter embraced. Snowflake squirmed between them, licking at the salt on Jennifer's cheeks. I'm okay, sweetheart, Jennifer said. These are happy tears. Mr. Mitchell fixed everything. Emma looked at Robert with wide, grateful eyes. Thank you, mister, she said solemnly. Does this mean we get to keep Snowflake? You absolutely get to keep Snowflake, Robert confirmed. In fact, I insist on it. As he walked back to his office later that morning, Robert felt lighter than he had in years. His phone would be ringing soon with questions about his decisions. His executive team would push back. There would be difficult conversations ahead, but sometimes, he realized, the right decision and the right feeling are the same thing. Sometimes wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it takes a little girl and her puppy to remind us what truly matters. And sometimes, the greatest act of leadership